Thanks for joining us today, and welcome to Red Mountain Town, Colorado. Red Mountain Town's a bit of an enigma. It's a hard town site to identify. The final resting place of Red Mountain Town is equal distance between Ouray and Silverton, Colorado, off US Highway 550. However, the town was moved once and burnt twice, meaning you can find a few versions of Red Mountain Town. The original town was settled in 1879 when a group of silver deposits was found nearby. At that time, it was a small mining camp and went by the name of Sky City. The camp was situated just below the National Belle Mine. However, it would later be relocated. This is because the residents of Sky City first built their camp in the wintertime, when the ground was frozen solid. Once spring came, the town site became swampy, fly-infested, and just generally messy. At the same time, several other settlements and tent cities were also being established in the Red Mountain Pass area, including Barilla and Rogersville, which were also situated just next to the National Belle Mine. A surveyor from Silverton, Colorado, made his way to what was called Rogersville and plotted out the first town plat. It was comprised of 4 streets and 1 business. Around this time, the people from Sky City and the other encampments around the National Belle Mine decided to get out of the swamp. They packed up and relocated directly next to the Rogersville town site. This was a move of only a few hundred yards in several cases, but it made all the difference for the miners of the Red Mountain Town district. They were closer to Automere's Tollway, the $1 Million Highway, and the National Belle Mine. Not to mention, they were away from the increasingly swampy conditions in the now defunct Sky City. The new population allowed them to establish a town company and petition for a post office. The post office was established in January 1883, despite the fact that it was primarily made of tents and the town had few permanent wooden structures. When the post office was established, it was the first settlement to don the name Red Mountain Town. In short order, the town had 2 newspapers, numerous homes, a hotel called the Hudson House, and a multi-story saloon called the Assembly Club. By this time, the town of Red Mountain had incorporated the surrounding communities of Sky City, Sweetsville, and Rogersville. Meanwhile, back in Barilla, a competitive town site had been quietly building up, just a little further north on the $1 Million Highway, US Highway 550. This town was less than a mile away and decided to take the name Red Mountain City. This was controversial and was intentionally designed to irritate the residents of Red Mountain Town. Keep in mind that all of the communities in the Red Mountain mining district were competitive, but the proximity and similar names made this rivalry even more bitter between these 2 camps. Almost immediately, there was confusion between the 2 settlements. Shipments of supplies would be incorrectly delivered and seldom returned. Several disputes were recorded concerning misunderstood property deeds and bank transactions. To exacerbate the confusion, both newspapers referred to their town as Red Mountain, acting as though town or city was just never a part of the town's name. Later, the rivalry evolved to the editors of each town's newspaper weekly exchanging barbs through open letters, editorials, and occasionally direct accusations. The entire Red Mountain mining district was talking about this rivalry. The naming dispute was finally put to an end when Red Mountain City petitioned for a post office. the U.S. Postal Service chose to call the town Congress because the town was closest to the Congress mine. The newly coined town of Congress was the loser in more than one way. This is due to the fact that it had very few silver deposits, and majority of the silver and gold deposits were found just near Red Mountain Town. By 1887, just 8 years after the feud began, only a few residents remained in Congress, and Red Mountain City was a thing of the past. On a quick side note, if you know what any of this equipment is, we'd love to know. We stumbled on some strange sort of an examination table, what looks to be some sort of pressurized pipes and tanks. Our best guess was maybe somebody was running a still, or it was some sort of medical sterilization equipment. Love to know your thoughts in the comments below. Now, with that aside, let's talk a little bit more about how this town came to be abandoned. One of the biggest setbacks was a fire in 1892. It began in the kitchen of the Red Mountain Hotel, and it quickly spread through all of the wooden structures. In spite of the brave efforts of the volunteer fire crew and the residents of the town, the fire destroyed majority of the buildings. By the time everything stopped burning, all 15 of the Main Street buildings were gone. In fact, only the depot and the jail survived. The gritty group of residents that remained soon rebuilt the town. But the town suffered its second fire in 1899, just a few years later. At that time, only 12 citizens remained in the town. Red Mountain Town saw a brief resurgence in 1901, along with most of the towns in this district. Many people predicted the towns would be thriving and shiny and happy once again. However, this never came to be. At that time, several of the area mines were consolidated into the Idarado Mining Company, later to be acquired by the Newmont Gold Company. The National Belle, Gusson, Treasury, Congress, and dozens of other mines were all consolidated into a new conglomerate. This new mining operation eventually created hundreds of miles of tunnels, so extensive that they still connect below the cities of Telluride and Red Mountain Town to this day. The town limped by until the Idarado mines and mill closed in 1978. At this point, Red Mountain Town was primarily used for seasonal and short-term housing for the miners. Very few families still lived here. In 1983, the state of Colorado filed suit against the Idarado Mining Company for natural resource damages and the subsequent lead poisoning in the region. A few people remained in Red Mountain Town until 1986, when a study financed by the Idarado Mining Company found that 7% of the children in the area tested had above average lead levels in their blood. In 1993, the Centers for Disease Control concluded that the levels were 3 times higher than previously reported by the Idarado Mining Company. And thanks to the successful lawsuit and the support of the community at that time, Colorado was not only able to secure the funding to fix this site, but many other natural disasters across Colorado. Today, the Newmont Gold Company has once again rebranded and calls itself the Newmont Mining Company. Together, they work with the state of Colorado and are working to remove lead, acids, zinc, and other heavy metals from the region and its water supply. The state of Colorado has successfully pioneered new methods of revegetation that can cover these large piles of tailings that we see littering the Red Mountain Valley and across Colorado. The remains of Red Mountain Town can primarily be seen at the top of Red Mountain Pass, 13 miles south of Ouray off Highway 550. For a closer look, the Red Mountain District can be accessed with an ATV or high-clearance vehicle off of County Road 31, 12.8 miles south of Ouray, Colorado. And on a quick side note, one of you viewers were kind enough to pull me aside and point out in my Ironton video that I was not properly pronouncing the city of Ouray, Colorado. Although you might be tempted to say Ouray, it's properly pronounced Ouray, Colorado. It's a very popular pet peeve with folks from the area, and I just want to say, hey, sorry for mispronouncing it, and moving forward, hooray for Ouray. I'll leave you today with some shots from around the area where you can see some of the competitive mines to the Red Mountain Town. Furthermore, you'll also be able to see the Idarado cleanup area, where many of the tailing piles are now covered with vegetation. However, as you'll see, there's still a decent amount of work to be done. Thanks for joining us today, and please do like, comment, and subscribe.